Hello and welcome back to Drama Investigator. Before we get into today's investigation, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified when I post the tea. 6ix9Ine sentencing is today. He is in the courtroom as I'm recording this video. Saucy. So I found a journalist who is reporting live from the courtroom. He's able to tweet out everything that's happening, and let me tell you right now, all the tea is being spilled the house. Everyone in their rainbow pigtails are shook. 6ix9ine, for those of you who don't know, is an extremely problematic rapper. I'll leave all my prior investigation videos we've done on him in the past down below in the description. Let's be real, anyone who gets 6ix9ine tattooed on their forehead will be doing anything at this point to avoid a prison sentence. And thus, let the snitching in the courtroom 2.0 begin. Judge ENQUIRIES has come out, the prosecutors at the government table, the 6ix9ine, Dawn Floria, and Lance Lazaro. Danielle Hernandez, good morning, Your Honour. Judge ENQUIRIES, we're here for sentencing on charges including conspiracy, attempted murder, conspiracy to distribute what the hell? And 4 firearms charge. I understand government is dropping count 2. Firearms is no longer viable under the US versus Davis. Judge ENQUIRIES, I received a letter from a woman named Marlena who says she and Mr. Hernandez had a child in 2015. I will put it on the docket with redactions. We received an anonymous letter that I will not put on the docket. I reviewed a letter from the government I'd asked for about how the guidelines apply. I've also received 2 victim impact letters with redactions, which I find warranted. Also, the government's cover letter about trying to notify victims. Here we can see in that letter it states, victim who was struck in the foot during the July 16th, 2018 shooting in Brooklyn intends to speak at the sentencing hearing. Turning now to the pre-sentence report. Mr. Hernandez, have you reviewed it? 6ix9ine, yes, Your Honour. Judge, are there any objections? Not from the government, not from the defence. The PRS is accepted, will be placed under seal. Now we turn to the sentencing guideline. Although no longer binding, I must accurately calculate them. It seems the parties agree that the defendant's criminal history category is 2. I agree that is 2. Mr. Hernandez was on probation for use of a child in a performance where he was part of the racketeer conspiracy, so it's 2. As to the firearms charges, mandatory 10-year sentences, consecutive. So, as a matter of formality, it's 459 to 492 months. Do the parties agree, subject to the government's motion? Yes. Judge, we turn now to the parties. Mr. Longyear, is the government moving for a reduced sentence under 5K1 for the defendant's cooperation? Yes. We turn to the views of the parties. Longyear states, I'd like to set the table. The shooting by Aaron Young, a shooting in Brooklyn in the street in broad daylight. The hotel shooting. We have surveillance video and cell site information. Obviously the robbery of Mr. Hernandez himself. The court heard this at the trial. Based on the Title 3 wiretaps, Mr. Hernandez had publicly distanced himself from the gang. He went on the Breakfast Club. That afternoon we started intercepting calls. What do you think led to Mr. Hernandez distancing himself from the gang? There was, among other things, Mr. Hernandez's relationship with his girlfriend. There was Jim Jones talking about Mr. Hernandez, so we met with Mr. Hernandez and his counsel. During the meeting, Mr. Hernandez started to give us information about the gang, about the structure, who the key members were, and so it was more than Hernandez listening. He knew the writing was on the wall. Judge, was that known to other members of the gang? Yes, to Cafano, Jordan, and others. So we took the gang down Sunday evening and Monday morning. Mr. Hernandez was presented on Monday evening. We had a proffer meeting, and in that first proffer, Mr. Hernandez was forthcoming. He described his participation in robberies. He described the standing of the different lineups. As the proffers developed, we met 2 or 3 times a week. Mr. Hernandez described an incident in which Mr. Jordan shot 5 times at a car. There was no police report of that. Judge ENQUIRIES, but the video was on Mr. Mack's social media account. Yes. He walked us through text messages and told us what the words meant. His information allowed the government to charge Mr. Mack with conspiracy with respect to Mr. Allison. All we had to do was the video and the cell site info. With Mr. Hernandez, we charged kidnapping. Judge, were you aware of the October slashing before Mr. Hernandez told you? NYPD was aware. Denard Butler, Mr. Hernandez provided us information. Inner City Press. Denard Butler's sentencing is January the 30th, 2020. I want to turn now to risk to Mr. Hernandez's safety. The people against whom Mr. Hernandez testified. The godfather of the street lineup. These are the leaders. As soon as Mr. Hernandez started cooperating, he had to leave his family. Hernandez was moved to a special facility. Even in there, he was put in a separate pod. This will follow him forever. Certain things that people take for granted, like going to the movies, Hunardies. Judge Engelmeyer. He faced some risk just for repudiating the gang. I have a few questions. One involves restitution. Is there any victim here to be compensated? We have not heard of one. Judge Engelmeyer. Usually in gang cases, the defendant does not have the money, but that's not the case here. And notice to the victims. I appreciate the letters, but why only with respect to this one high-profile defendant? The victims knew of the other sentencings, didn't they? We've been in contact. Judge Engelmeyer. Very good. Now, one victim? LL. I'm hurt. I'm upset. July 16th, 2018. I was just an innocent bystander, shot in the foot. The bullet could have hit me in my head. Sobs. And then the judge says, take your time. LL. Every day I wake up, I have scars on my back. I was out of work. The action took a lot of me. I still have to go to the doctors. And for him to sit up there, I want to see him apologize. My mother could have lost her daughter. At the end of the day, he was the mastermind. I have bruises on me. I have to look at myself. I just want an apology. It took a lot out of me to come here. I want to face him. I want him to know he hurt me. He hurt me. Judge Engelmeyer. I can see how hard this was on you. I am sorry that happened to you. I appreciate the courage, and I mean that word deliberately, that it took to come here. Mr. Longyear, you are unaware of any other victim? Anyone else where? No other hand up. Lance Lazaro. Mr. Hernandez sits before you today, given a second chance. The only that comes from being a gang member is a life in jail. That will be his message. If given a second chance, he has tried to do the right thing. Lazaro. So we got to that proffer meeting, and we basically told that certain members of the gang are trying to supervise him. Daniel's mother was living day to day. There were many nights Daniel and his brother went to bed hungry. Then Daniel's mother meets a man he considers his stepfather. He becomes a father figure. Then he was murdered on the street. The impact of that, his stepfather being killed, and Daniel feeling guilty that he didn't go to the store with him. He is diagnosed with depression. He's given medication. Every dime he gives to his mother when he's working at a deli. His mother is waking up early to go clean houses. He's picked up cans to sell them. They went to church every Sunday. He sings in the choir. He decided to make music videos in the backyard. Lazaro. Daniel decided he's going to out and tour Eastern Europe, try to make a career, but he didn't make much money. In 2017, Daniel Hernandez, he writes the song Gunmo. He's going to change his image, the gangster image. That's how he got involved with 9Tre. He meets Cafano Jordan, who tells him to go buy some Hennessy, and he'll get the gang members together to shoot the video. It blows up, and the second one blows up. These gangsters of 9Tre, they see that if they control Daniel Hernandez, they're rich. Maybe joining 9Tre contributed to him becoming a star, but it was the worst decision he'd ever made. It has resulted in his imprisonment. As Michael Longyear stated earlier, my client's cooperation was complete. From the day he appeared before Magistrate Pittman, he cooperated. He took down a major gang. 4 other additional defendants were arrested and taken off the street because of Mr. Hernandez. His testimony was believed by the jury. With respect to Mr. Allison, that had to do with them kidnapping and robbing Mr. Hernandez. He will always have to have full-time security. This is different than the normal cooperator. He's a target for any gang member. He's got a lifelong sentence. He helped take down a major gang. We all know his testimony was leaked on the internet. Those pictures will forever be used against him. When you get to know him, he's not a bad kid. If given a second chance by Your Honour, I believe you will never see him again. I'm asking for time served and 3 years of supervised release. Judge Engelmeyer. Thank you, Mr. Lazaro. Mr. Hernandez, this is your time. 6ix9ine, Hernandez. Your Honour, I really don't know where to start. This past year, I can't describe it. I wrote something down. I know we haven't had the chance to speak. Hernandez. I denounced being 9Tre before the arrest. I was aware that the mother of my child was having relations with Cafano Jordan via text messages. I was already kidnapped by Anthony Ellison. The booking agents were stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hernandez, I am not a victim. I put myself into this position from day one. I allowed them in. That was my decision. To the lady who came forward, Ms. LL, I don't know you. I'm sorry for what happened. I know that throwing my money at a situation is not the best result, but whatever medical bills you want me to pay, I will. I'm sorry that happened to you. I was in 3rd grade the last time I saw my biological father, and even glance I took. Sorry. I wrote a letter. I'll read it. Voice changes. I know there is no apology that can kill off the pain we have all been affected by. I'm not perfect. I made a lot of bad choices, but that does not make me a bad person. If you told me in January 2017 I'd be a global star, I'd call you crazy. If in January 2018 you'd tell me I'd be a part of a federal indictment, I'd call you crazy. Since the age of 14, when I lost my father, at 15, 16, 17, I'd see my mum wake up early. I wanted to prove something to the world. I wanted the world to see me as an example, that you're in control of where you go. I used my platform to push the message. If I did it, why can't you? I gave people hope. Your Honour, a 5-year-old boy named Franklin was dying of cancer. He wanted to meet me. I asked myself why, but I went. Cancer had disabled the right side of his body. I told him how strong he was. I realised I was not just a kid with rainbow hair and 6ix9ine tats. Franklin told me I was hope. Then I met another girl named Tati. She broke out of her shell. It was September. The family was struggling. I took them school shopping for the year. Tati told me if I can be strong, they can be strong. When people see me, they don't only see Tekashi 6ix9ine, the arrogant, I'm a human, I got organs just like everyone in this room. They see Daniel Hernandez, not Tekashi 6ix9ine. I failed these kids, the millions of kids, my own kids, I haven't spoken to, the whole time incarcerated. It will be a priority of mine to visit low-income families. I failed these people. They believed in Daniel Hernandez. I was too busy making the negative image of my 6ix9ine persona. I know God has a bigger plan for me. I want to inspire the youth that it's never too late to change. If I can change for the better, so can they. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I lost my father to violence. I grew up with no guidance. It was me. I live it, so I know. Your Honor, allow me to inspire people, not only the young people here, but the millions around the world listening and watching. Now Mr. Hernandez's biological father raises his hand to speak. Judge ENQUIRIES says, I'm sorry, it's too late. Judge ENQUIRIES shoots down Daniel Hernandez's biological father as being too late, then announced a 10-minute break, as he often does before reading a sentencing decision, with the number, the money shot, at the end. Thread will continue. Yes, Judge ENQUIRIES will come back and read a long speech saying these are serious crimes, but on the other hand, then after a pause and a drum roll, he will deliver his sentence, then ask if the government moves to dismiss any open counts. Judge ENQUIRIES is back. Is there any reason sentence should not now be imposed? Long year. No, Your Honor. Judge ENQUIRIES. Mr. Hernandez, your sentencing has attracted a lot of attention, but the factors are the same as on anyone's. Mr. Hernandez, I've given it a lot of close thought, including your cooperation. The following are my thoughts, and this is going to take a little while. You are in custody for 13 months. I agree you deserve a great deal of credit for cooperation. However, I cannot agree with your counsel that time served it appropriate. In my judgment, your conduct is too violent and selfish to make 13 months reasonable. You will not be going free today. #breaking. Judge ENQUIRIES, for the better part of a year, you were part of a violent gang. So that there is no misunderstanding, here is a specific account of those acts. First came Trippie Redd. You decided to shoot at a member of Trippie Redd's entourage. Jordan fired into the Sprinter van in the Times Square area. It is a matter of sheer luck that an innocent person or people was not wounded or killed. When you plead guilty, you admitted to attempting to commit murder on April 3rd, 2018, with a record label in Texas. You drove to the 40th Street and 8th Avenue. Gafano Jordan robbed the musicians at gunpoint. You took the backpack and it was found in your home. As it happened, the musicians surrendered easily, but they might not have. Later, outside a restaurant when people yelled 6ix9ine, Jordan struck them with a firearm. Then at the Barclays Center, you and Casanova were beefing. Your song Billy was a response. The song was played at trial, half of it. You inflamed matters by posting a video mocking Casanova. Next was Chief Keef. He was in New York. You were in LA. You offered $20,000 to shoot at Chief Keef outside W Hotel. You later gave $10,000. Then you were in LA. Arrival was live streaming in Smurf Village. Jordan offered to shoot. You said okay. In that incident in Smurf Village, a woman was shot in the foot, LL, who we heard from today. Next was Snow Billy. Aaron Young shot him, and I sentenced Aaron Young to 20 years. Apart from the number of vengefulness of these attacks, there's also that they were to benefit you. Before you, the gang didn't fight with rap entourages. They had no independent interest in going after musicians and their management groups. You used 9Tre as a potent means of getting even with your rivals. You claim you foolishly commingled with members of the gang, but it's more than that. The attacks would not have happened without you. Shoddy said he carried an assault rifle to protect you from the beefs you started. He was recorded by George Riviera saying this: you didn't shoot, but you're responsible. And so, I reject the portrait of you as a passive participant. You told the US probation department you were brainwashed by the gang. That might be partially true, but the relationship was symbiotic. They got something out of it, but so did you. Your first crime, use of a child in a performance, you said the same thing. Their older acquaintances were having with the underage girl. That excuse may have worked once, but it doesn't work twice. You have not been charged with using the members of the gangs as extras. You used them to much effect in Gunmo. It was your artistic license to do that. You are not being sentenced for that. Bruce Springsteen sang about murder. Inner City Press. This line will have legs. You essentially joined. Your choice to join 9Tre was unnecessary. I see a lot of gangs, like a 76 defendant Bronx case. They fell in at a young age. That excuse is not available to you. By the time you began with 9Tre, you were a nationally famous rapper. You had a prosperous future. Your counsel says he joined to break out of poverty. I am not buying that. You were set. As a result of your musical career, you could have gotten the advice of security people, and presumably lawyers and accountants. I have sentenced hundreds of defendants for gang activity. Your daughter had nothing to do with your decision, but for your cooperation, you would get a very long sentence. When you began to cooperate in November 2018, some incidents the government didn't know about, but it knew about a lot. The April 3 robbery, the 2 April 18th shootings. Your driver has been cooperating for many months against you. The attack on Frenchie's His van was captured on security video. I therefore conclude that one way or another, the full range of your conduct would have come to light. Your cooperation was courageous. The danger to you is multiplied by your music career, which I understand you intend to continue. The fact that you are unusually recognizable does not help you. You met with the government 26 times, reviewing social media messages and decoding them. Your cooperation enabled the government to take down a violent gang, beyond the 6 including you named in the initial indictment. You testified at the trial this fall. I saw you staining to make sure you were measuring your words right. You testified in harsh glare of nationwide publicity. There were 2 other corporators, but you squarely implicated the 2 defendants. The jury's 2 not guilty verdicts on firearms charged did not implicate your testimony. If little doubt if the jury were asked if a firearm had been brandished during your they would have said yes, and today you apologise. I have no doubt that the process of cooperation for you has been cathartic. For all these reasons, you deserve a very substantial reduction, and you will receive you. I followed some of the commentary during the trial. I took much of it in good fun. I appreciate the memes, whether at your expense or mine, but I need to say, 9Tre was violent, not to be glorified. Corporation of criminal insiders is a necessary tool. Imagine the members of 9Tre free today. There was the slashing victim. Anyone of use could have been in Times Square or the Barclays Centre or in the street with Kafano Jordan or Anthony Young. You are world famous for cooperating. No gang will want to work with you. Everything I've seen suggests to me that this has been a searing experience for you. You've squandered 13 months so far. I do not expect you to be tempted to commit again. If you do, I am the judge in your case, and your economic self-interest. You have struck a lucrative deal. The situation is unusual. You are very fortunate. You will land on your feet. So far, your story appears to prove that there is no such thing as bad publicity. In the end, my judgment is that 13 months is not enough. I've considered other 5K sentences and gang violence. 13 months is outside the mainstream. Mr. Hernandez, if you expected to be released today, you will be disappointed, but you are wise to cooperate. Your cooperation will result in years more liberty. Mr. Hernandez, please rise. It is the judgment of the court. You are to serve a term of 24 months in prison with 5 years of supervised release. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is the verdict. What are your thoughts on all this drama? Let me know in the comments. That's all for this investigation. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell. My social media will be linked down below, and I'll see you guys in our next investigation.